Well, good morning. I'm calling this meeting to order, the May 2012 meeting of the Federal Communications Commission. It is a special day. It is the first meeting we are having with our two new commission members, Jessica Rosenworcel and Ajit Pai. We're very pleased that they're up here on the dais. While they're new to this dais and these seats, they are not new to the commission. Very pleased that both of them have extensive experience in the space, wonderful records of accomplishment, and a real recognition of the importance of their jobs. We've already gotten off to an excellent start. Both of our new commissioners have hit the ground running. I couldn't be more pleased that they're here. So I welcome each of you to the commission, and I want to ask my colleagues if they have anything they'd like to say to
Well, I vote
welcome.
To approve that, Mr. Chairman, what you just said, and we'll make it unanimous here in a minute, I'm sure. And this is a very exciting day, and hopefully a day you will always remember, and certainly we will. And you are no strangers to this building or to Capitol Hill. You have very rich resumes and experiences throughout life and great backgrounds to bring. And I'm looking forward to you making the FCC even better as a result of your backgrounds. And you may not know it, but you've already made history. So you are the 80th person appointed to the FCC, and you are the 81st in that order. And apparently I was the 76th, and then I just counted it up from there. So, yeah. So you're 78th, I think. So you are also, I had to testify more quickly after being minted as commissioners than any other commissioners in the history, I think, of the FCC. I testified before Congress. So that's another point of history. I think Commissioner Pai is tied for the shortest last name of any commissioner. Also the only commissioner who can boast that his last name can be spelled with a single letter from the Greek alphabet. But more seriously, he is the first Indian American. I have not seen this written yet, but the first Indian American appointed to the FCC, and we should all be very, very proud of that. And so I think that's fantastic. Just in case I'm wrong about that, though, I know for a fact that he is the first Indian American from Kansas appointed to the FCC. So, but just wanted to welcome you all here, and looking forward to a lot of work that lies ahead.
Well, again, welcome to all of you. I emailed both of you during significant times during the announcements. And one of the things that I mentioned, and it is so true, Mr. Chairman, I was not complaining, but affirming to them that I had some transportation issues and also some other issues the day in which things were made known. And I told them, even through all of that, this is the best time and best place to be. So I would like to welcome you, even during the worst days, as I affirm. This is the best of all worlds for you, and we are very happy that you will join us and infuse all of your knowledge and talents into this body. You were missed even before you got here, but welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And so this is the first meeting with our two new commissioners. It's the last meeting before this year's Memorial Day. And before we start, I would like to take a moment to salute all the men and women who serve and have served so honorably in our armed services, including many members of the FCC staff who have in the past and who are doing so right now. With that, Madam Secretary, would you please announce today's agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you, and good morning, commissioners. Today's agenda includes 3 items for your consideration. First, you will consider a notice of inquiry examining the role of deployable aerial communications architecture in facilitating emergency response by rapidly restoring communications capabilities in the immediate aftermath of a catastrophic event. Second, you will consider a report and order and further notice of proposed rulemaking to establish service rules and an allocation for medical body area networks, and seek comment on the selection of an M-band coordinator. For your final item today, you will consider a report and order that will provide economic area-based 800 megahertz licensees with the flexibility to better utilize spectrum to transition networks from legacy 2G technologies to advanced wireless technologies. This is your agenda for today. The first item will be presented by the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau.
Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau is pleased to present this notice of inquiry on deployable aerial communications architecture. And we are especially pleased to present it as the inaugural agenda item for our two newest commissioners. One of our key areas of focus in the Bureau is on communications technology that can be deployed rapidly to an area in the wake of a major disaster or other catastrophic event that destroys or severely disables existing communications infrastructure. Being able to stand up communications during the first 72 hours after a disaster can make an enormous difference in saving lives, protecting property, and initiating the recovery process. Today's notice explores the potential to deliver this emergency capability using the latest innovations in airborne technologies and platforms. With me at the table are our Deputy Chief, Jennifer Manner, Dr. Behzad Ghaffari, the Chief Engineer of our Emergency Response Interoperability Center, or ERIC, and Brian Hurley, Staff Counsel to ERIC. I'd also like to thank Bob Pavlak, Jason Kim, Rasul Safavian, Yoon Chang, and Jean Filano for their work on this notice. We also appreciate the input we have received from the Office of Engineering and Technology, the Wireless Bureau, and the Office of General Counsel. And now Brian and Behzad will present the item.
Good morning. Today we present for the Commission's consideration a notice of inquiry on deployable aerial communications architecture, or DACA. These are aerial platforms, such as weather balloons or unmanned aircraft, that could provide communications during or right after an emergency when existing infrastructure may be damaged or disabled. In a January 2011 public notice, the Bureau sought comment on the potential role of DACA technologies in facilitating emergency response. After reviewing the comments that were received, the Bureau developed a DACA white paper and presented it at the September 2011 open meeting. The white paper surveyed DACA technologies that exist or are being developed and identified some potential issues regarding their deployment and operation. The white paper also recommended actions for further study. Consistent with these recommendations, the Bureau convened a public workshop on DACA technologies in October and has developed this notice of inquiry for the Commission's consideration.
Good morning. The notice of inquiry explores the potential for DACA technologies to support emergency communications, particularly during the most serious disasters. The NOI seeks additional information on the various types of DACA technologies that are in use or being developed. It also addresses interoperability, which is a central requirement of emergency response communications between multiple disciplines and agencies. If DACA technologies are used for emergency communications, it is critical to ensure that they preserve interoperability for emergency responders. The NOI also examines prioritization of service and access on DACA systems, which may be important given potential limitations on the amount of traffic DACA systems can support. The NOI looks at system performance issues as well, including coverage, signal penetration, and interference mitigation. In addition, the NOI explores how DACA systems could be introduced during a response, coordinated among multiple responding agencies, and configured to prevent harmful interference with terrestrial communications as these are restored. The NOI also looks at possible mechanisms for authorizing DACA deployments. Finally, the NOI explores international considerations relevant to DACA deployments near the Canada and Mexico borders. The Bureau recommends adoption of this notice and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let's proceed to comments from the bench. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, David, and the entire team for all your hard work on this very important matter. So DACA, as we're referring to it as, should not be confused with a proposed piece of legislation known as the Digital Age Communications Act. But I thank also the many commenters for your significant contributions and also the DACA white paper on this. It's been a terrific partnership that we've had thus far. I'm really quite pleased that we are exploring the use of aerial devices and systems to provide emergency communications immediately after a catastrophic event. When communications are inaccessible due to damaged facilities, power outages, or other setbacks. Over the years, the private sector has invested billions of dollars in emergency preparedness and response capabilities, and we have every reason to ensure that our colleagues in other federal agencies, as well as those in state and local entities, are able to take full advantage of these efficiencies, including the potential use of DACA systems. I look forward to engaging with all of my colleagues here, now the bigger family, as well as all interested parties, especially to explore a number of areas, especially the potential for DACA to cause harmful interference to other systems and how that could best be avoided, and look forward to this ongoing dialogue. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Clyburn.
Thank you. I wish to commend the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau for presenting us with an item which reinforces our mission essential function to ensure continuous operations of critical communications and other services. Each year, particularly during hurricane season, our nation is faced with large-scale disasters which routinely result in terrestrial communications networks being compromised. Therefore, in addition to examining ways to improve the reliability of legacy and broadband networks, we also must prepare for the reality that, despite best efforts, networks will go out of service. The experiences of federal agencies have shown that aerial platforms offer a rapid response solution to temporarily restore critical communications. Specifically, the U.S. Armed Forces have used these platforms successfully to provide communications in the absence of available terrestrial infrastructure. In response to the public notice that the Commission released last year, several parties raised technical and coordination concerns. This NOI seeks comments on these issues and additionally asks important questions about the cost of deploying these platforms, frequency planning, and minimizing potential interference. I was pleased to see that a number of commercial mobile wireless carriers offered recommendations for how aerial platforms could be deployed to prevent interference with their commercial networks. The continued collaboration of all relevant stakeholders will be important to ensure that we have a thorough and productive discussion on the best way to take advantage of these technologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Rosenworcel.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the chairman and my fellow commissioners, and most importantly, the staff of the agency, for the incredibly warm welcome I've received since I arrived just last week. It is very much a privilege to sit in this chair. I have sat in a lot of chairs in this room and in this building, and it's good to see so many old friends in the building and some new ones too. This item demonstrates what the Commission can do at its best: provide vision that brings together the communications industry and the government to find creative ways to serve the public. With this inquiry, we are exploring how to use advanced technologies to improve communications and access to information during a disaster. While our terrestrial networks are built to withstand a lot of abuse, we must make sure that emergency management officials, first responders, and personnel from critical infrastructure industry always have the tools they need to communicate. This is especially true in the early hours after a disaster, when every second counts. Deployable aerial communications architecture may be one solution. When the power has been knocked out, bridges have been washed away, or other unthinkable events have come to pass, this technology may help keep us connected. The Commission already has taken its first steps on this subject with its white paper and workshop, but much, much more needs to be done to ready this technology for prime time. Coordination is key in light of other government uses of the National Airspace System, including, but not limited to, those addressed in the Federal Aviation Administration Modernization Act. Practical issues need attention, and addressing the potential for interference to existing networks is essential. After all, In our zeal to provide reliable communications in disaster, we cannot inadvertently impede restoration efforts of traditional networks. I look forward to reviewing the record as it develops. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Communications Act begins by observing that the Federal Communications Commission was created in part for the purpose of promoting safety of life and property through the use of wire and radio communications. I am pleased that the first item I have the privilege of supporting at a Commission meeting fulfills this core purpose. The failure of terrestrial infrastructure following an emergency can leave a dangerous gap in communications capabilities. Deployable aerial communications architectures, or DACA, as has been pointed out, have the potential to fill this gap. The action we take today is particularly timely considering recent experiences during emergencies and Americans' increasing reliance on communications services. Now, following the adoption of the Notice of Inquiry, the agency will benefit from robust participation by all stakeholders. Commission decisions are always better informed by a thorough record, of course, but I think that this matter presents questions which call for an especially strong factual foundation. Now, Dr. Ghaffari, during his presentation, did an excellent job laying out a number of these questions. It is my hope that the record ultimately developed in this proceeding will reflect a full airing of views on these and other issues. Once the record is complete, I will work with the chairman, my fellow commissioners, and the talented staff in the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau who worked on this item, as well as the white paper, which inspired this proceeding, to take appropriate action. We should do what we can to enable emergency management officials, first responders, industry personnel, and the public to communicate when existing networks are destroyed or damaged. We may not know when or where the next emergency will happen, but we can be sure that communication services will be vital to helping those in need. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Pai. Science fiction. This item is actually one of several items that we've considered, and there's another one today that at first glance feels like science fiction. We had the privilege to approve an order a few weeks ago that will push forward a technology, a spectrum-based technology that will help paralyzed people walk. We'll consider later today an item on medical body area networks. And now we're considering efforts to promote the rapid development of this technology. And it's not science fiction. Antennas in the sky are fact, not fiction. And when disaster strikes, they can make a real difference. We know from recent experiences in our own country and certainly looking at other countries that when disaster strikes, including natural disasters, our ground-based communications infrastructure can be stressed and can go down. And as reliant as we've become on communications, both for public safety and for the ordinary business of our lives, this can complicate emergency response and obviously severely disrupt our economy and our ability to connect with family. This technology, this DACA technology, has the ability to temporarily restore critical communications, including emergency response and 911 calling and perhaps other forms of communications. And as David mentioned, it has the potential to do it quickly, even in the first hours after disaster strikes. And the idea, it is like science fiction, it is technologically complex, but at some level it's really not that hard to understand. If you imagine a cell tower that's floating or flying in the sky, that's what this technology is, and it could potentially provide 3G service, LTE service, or even Wi-Fi over an area. We know the technology can work. As Commissioner Clyburn said, it's already being used by the U.S. military. We know that had this technology been available, it could have been remarkably useful after, for example, Hurricane Katrina, when 38 911 call centers became inoperable and more than 3 million customers lost telephone service for too long. We're launching this proceeding to accelerate the availability and use of this technology for domestic emergency services Building on the work of our Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, we expect this notice of inquiry will help us answer a number of outstanding and in some cases difficult questions. My colleagues have identified them. We heard from the Bureau as well on these. Interference issues need to be addressed and thought through. How efficiently to stand up, what are the protocols. These are all hard issues. They'll require us to work very closely with the players in the industry that are developing these technologies and first responders at the state and local level, as well as FEMA and DHS. This is an example of where all of us working together can produce an outcome that could be of tremendous benefit for all Americans. Public safety remains a top agency priority. I'm proud of the work that the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau has done and our ability to work together to take several important steps in this area, including the accelerated launch last year of the new system that allows authorities to send targeted alerts to people's mobile devices during an emergency. We've taken important steps toward next generation 911. And of course, we worked with Congress and are very pleased to see the decision by Congress a few months ago to fund and create the framework around a nationwide interoperable mobile broadband public safety network. I want to thank the very broad group of people who've helped bring this item to this point. As you've heard, there was a white paper, there was a workshop, a lot of work has gone into it already. Brian Steckler of the HFN Center has joined us today. Brian Connor, who's part of the Unmanned Aircraft Group at the FAA, I believe is also here, and I want to thank you and your colleagues at the FAA for your work and participation in this. A number of companies deserve to be acknowledged for the work that they've put in, Space Data Corporation, Motorola Solutions, Osseous Networks, AeroVironment, and others. Obviously, we'll continue to need broad participation and collaboration from private sector companies developing this technology and the various government public safety agencies whose input and engagement will be essential. Thank you to each of my commissioners for your input into this. I am pleased that this is able to be the first item that our new commissioners can vote on. Thank you to the Bureau for your terrific work on this. And with that, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the request for editorial privileges is granted. So thank you very much. Good work. And let's see. Madam Secretary, is it me or you?
It's me.
All right.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the next item on your agenda will be presented by the Office of Engineering and Technology. It is entitled Amendment of the Commission's Rules to Provide for the Operation of Medical Body Area Networks.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Especially like to welcome Commissioner Rosenworcel and Commissioner Pai. It was great working with you when you were here before, and I know on behalf of the staff, everybody is excited to have you back and working in your new capacities, so we're just thrilled. We're also privileged to be presenting, if not the first, one of the first items for your consideration, and I think in more ways than one, this is a feel-good item. So the report and order that we're presenting today represents the latest in a series of actions to advance the provision of health care in our nation. The Commission has repeatedly recognized the power of mobile broadband to improve outcomes and lower health care costs. The innovation in this area is breathtaking. Everything from implanted glucose monitors to health management applications that are delivered by smartphones to smart slippers that can alert a doctor to changes in an elderly patient's foot movement that might lead to a trip or fall. In 2010, the National Broadband Plan highlighted healthcare as one of the national priorities that could be furthered through improved broadband deployment. And since that time, the FCC has been working closely with other federal agencies, such as the Food and Drug Administration, and has taken steps to promote the development of new and innovative types of body-worn and implanted medical devices. For example, and as the Chairman mentioned, last fall the Commission authorized medical micro-power networks that are designed to restore sensation, mobility, and other functions to paralyzed limbs and other parts of the human body. The Medical Body Area Network, or MBANS, concept that we are presenting today is based on a proposal that was submitted in response to a notice of inquiry in which the Commission sought broad comment on future spectrum needs for medical technologies. The report and order would provide 40 megahertz of spectrum for use on a secondary basis to provide low-power networks that consist of body-worn sensors and associated control devices. Through a combination of system design and coordination procedures, M-band equipment will be able to share spectrum with existing primary users. Once deployed in healthcare settings, M-band devices could allow the active monitoring of many more patients than is now practical under the existing wired and wireless technologies, and eliminate the need to physically wire many patients to monitoring and diagnostic equipment. As we describe in our presentation, the M-band technology promises both to enhance patient care and achieve efficiencies that will reduce overall healthcare costs. Joining me at the table are Mark Settle, who's the Deputy Chief of our Policy and Rules Division, and he is also the FCC's liaison to the NTIA's Interdepartment Radio Advisory Committee, which worked closely with us on this, and Brian Butler, who is an engineer in the Spectrum Policy Branch. In addition to Mark and Brian, I'd like to acknowledge the contributions to the item made by Jerry Matisse, Jameson Prime, Rashmi Doshi, Steve Jones, and Tom Mooring of OET, Scott Stone, Tom Derringe, and Jay Jackson of the Wireless Bureau, Steve Spaeth and David Horowitz of the General Counsel's Office, and Chuck Needy of the Office of Strategic Planning. Brian will now present the item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The Office of Engineering and Technology offers for your consideration a first report and order and further notice of proposed rulemaking to support a new generation of wireless medical device technology, Medical Body Area Networks. The Medical Body Area Network, or M-band, represents a flexible platform for the wireless networking of body-worn transmitters used to perform monitoring, diagnostic, and therapeutic functions that can be used in healthcare facilities and in patients' homes. An M-band will consist of body-worn sensors that transmit patient data wirelessly to a nearby control device. The control device, which might be placed beside a hospital bed, would aggregate vital medical information such as blood pressure, glucose level, heart rate, and respiratory information, and could then relay the data to a nurse's station, doctor's office, or other remote site for monitoring and evaluation. For example, a smart jacket of wireless sensors could use M-band frequencies to create a continuous neonatal monitoring system for premature babies. We envision that M-band devices will enhance patient safety, care, and comfort. A patient equipped with the inexpensive disposable M-band sensors will be free to move between the ICU, the operating room, and a private room without the constraints of physical wires. Moreover, this technology will enable hospitals to actively monitor a much larger percentage of their patient population and more quickly identify health events that require immediate attention. This will permit doctors to intervene before patients would have to be sent to the critical care unit or undergo additional expensive hospital treatments. In many cases, the ability to identify and respond to these medical situations immediately can literally mean the difference between life and death. The M-band technology can even shorten hospital stays. This not only makes good financial sense by reducing the cost and complexity of healthcare, but it also means that more patients will be able to recover in the comfort of their own home. The report and order before you allocates a total of 40 megahertz of spectrum at the 2360 to 2400 megahertz band on a secondary basis to support M-band networks. They will operate under our Part 95 rules as an expansion of our existing med radio service. The low-power M-band technology will be able to coexist with incumbent primary licensees in the band. Specifically, the report and order sets forth unique registration and coordination procedures, as well as other service and technical rules to govern M-band use in the portion of the band where critical flight testing operations are conducted. These rules are based for the most part on proposals that representatives of the flight test community and medical device manufacturers developed to facilitate the shared use of the band, and these will ensure that we maximize the use of our spectrum resources. The further notice asks questions about the selection of an M-band frequency coordinator. The M-band report and order is the latest in a series of steps the Commission has taken to harness the power of communication to transform the delivery of vital healthcare services. M-band technology represents yet another exciting new expansion of the medical radio communication field that promises to improve lives, foster innovation, and lower costs. For these reasons, the staff recommends the adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Very much. Excellent item. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I am delighted, it should come as no surprise, to finally be able to vote to approve this item today. I remain as enthusiastic about the promise of this new technology as when I first learned of it way back in 2007. Since then, I've made advancement of this proceeding an important priority. Although the government has taken far too long to get to this point, not the fault of anyone at this agency, I'm delighted that we are finally here. The FCC's action today will allow technologists to help medical patients in many, many profound and dramatic ways. At the same time, we are ensuring that these cutting-edge wireless technologies do not cause harmful interference with flight test operations, I guess among other things. Specifically, liberating innovators to allow them to create new wireless medical devices will end reliance on physically attached cables so patients can move sooner during the healing process. Furthermore, eliminating the need for potentially hazardous wires will increase patient safety. I also suspect that the new M-band's applications will result in lower health costs, as you outlined, by leveraging commercial equipment designed for the 2.3 gigahertz band already available in the marketplace. And as a result, I'm hopeful that all hospitals, whether large or small, or urban or rural, for-profit or non-profit, will be able to take advantage of this service to improve their patient care and lower their costs, therefore benefiting consumers of medical services. And Julie Knapp, many, many thanks to you on a personal level, as well as a policy level, as well as the incredibly exceptional team that you lead at OAT and throughout other offices within the agency. This has been a challenging task spanning many, many years. I don't know the number of hours, if you tallied it all up, as to how much the FCC has spent on this, but your fortitude, patience, persistence, thoroughness, and diligence, among many other virtues that you have brought to bear on this, have made this day possible. So congratulations. And also I thank the parties involved for developing this exciting proposal, and I look forward to what may develop as we go forward. And speaking of science fiction, again, this is where fiction and reality actually bear a lot of real fruit. So it's not fiction at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn.
Thank you. Before us this morning is yet another example of how the communications industry is working to address important needs in healthcare. This may be a surprise to many, but according to the statistics filed in this proceeding, only 56% of staff beds in acute care hospitals were actually monitored. In his remarks last week, Chairman Janikowski pointed out that the Institute of Healthcare Improvement reported that a monitored hospital patient has a 48% chance of surviving a cardiac arrest. However, unmonitored patients have only a 6% chance of survival. These statistics cry out for a solution which will enable the healthcare industry to monitor more patients and improve those outcomes. Medical body area networks, or M-bands, have the capacity to significantly address this issue. In addition, these networks provide a last-meter wireless link to eliminate the wires and cables that currently tether a patient to the monitor. This gives patients more freedom of movement, the enhanced ability to walk and exercise, which could result in more rapid recovery and an earlier discharge. This ultimately could improve patient care and reduce overall healthcare costs. With the rule changes contained in this order, as we've heard, the Commission is also providing up to 40 megahertz of spectrum on a secondary basis for medical care. Today's order not only holds a promise of more speedy recovery and lower medical costs, it also should attract capital investment and spur the development of businesses and job creation as the healthcare profession and wireless industry again join forces in deploying M-bands nationwide. Although this order largely tracks a joint proposal that GE, Philips, and Aftrac presented to the Commission, there are a number of equipment manufacturers and wireless carriers that have demonstrated interest in offering devices for services for the M-band platform. This proceeding also affirms what is possible when members of our communications industry work past initial agreements. At first, there were several parties who hold primary licenses in the 2.3 gigahertz band that were opposed to the GE petition. They were concerned that the development of medical body area networks would cause interference in their incumbent operations. I am glad that all relevant parties were able to collaborate to find a way to improve health care while maintaining protections for incumbent operations in these spectrum bands. Perhaps the details of their approach can be followed to promote sharing in other bands as well, and I am confident that this collaboration will continue as we work through the remaining issues raised in the further notice portion of this item. I join my colleagues in commending the talented staff of the Office of Engineering and Technology for working through difficult technical issues and for presenting us with a detailed and thorough item. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosenworcel.
This is a decision with revolutionary potential. I believe today's order makes the United States the first in the world to allocate spectrum for medical body area networks. The promise of this technology is extraordinary. By using small, low-powered sensors on the body, we can capture a wide range of physiological data. Information about blood pressure, glucose, oxygen concentration in the blood, and other medical metrics can then be sent along wirelessly to healthcare providers. This reduces the cost of patient monitoring. It frees patients from being tethered to a messy collection of wires and devices, both in the hospital and in the home. It makes way for medical care that is more accurate, more participatory, and more preventative. It will save lives. Our action today would not be possible without the creative efforts of many people across multiple industries. I want to thank the healthcare providers, device manufacturers, and aeronautical industry for their willingness to hammer out compromise in service of the greater good. By working through the complex technical and operational issues and developing a joint proposal for sharing in the 2360 to 2400 megahertz band, they have done more than facilitate the further development and use of M-bands. They have served as a model for developing shared use policies for spectrum that address interference concerns while allowing new services to flourish. With the growing demand for spectrum resources, it is cooperative efforts like this that give us hope and faith. As the further notice indicates, our work is not done. We must establish registration and coordination procedures. I'm hopeful that Commission staff, working with interested parties, will proceed quickly through the next stages of this proceeding so that M-band devices will soon become available in our hospitals and our homes. More, too, can be done with other Commission programs that facilitate the use of technology in medical care. Building on its work in the medical radio service, the Commission has already expanded it to include medical micropower networks. It has a first-of-its-kind memorandum of understanding with the Food and Drug Administration to promote the development of new medical devices. And going forward, the Commission may also need to update its Universal Service Rural Healthcare Mechanism, which helps bring high-capacity broadband networks to rural healthcare providers. Finally, let me also thank the Commission's Office of Engineering and Technology. This effort is a testament to their abilities to wrestle with hard issues and see them through to resolutions that both facilitate innovation and, in this case, improve lives.
Thank you. Commissioner Pai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. However complex the technical details, this item's purposes are simple: to save lives and to reduce healthcare costs. Through the use of M-band devices, healthcare professionals will be better able to monitor their patients and can intervene at an earlier stage if warning signs emerge. Moreover, wireless M-band devices can reduce the risk of infection, improve patient comfort and convenience, and even obviate the need for an initial or an extended hospital admission. Thus, by establishing service rules and allocating spectrum for M-band devices, the FCC today is enabling significant positive impacts on Americans' health and on overall healthcare costs. As has been suggested earlier, the road to adoption of this item has been long. Indeed, this proceeding resulted from a notice of inquiry issued by the Commission in the summer of 2006, seeking comment on the spectrum needs of wireless medical devices. Our ability to take definitive action at long last is due in large part to the efforts of the healthcare and flight testing communities. By working together cooperatively on a joint proposal for the sharing of spectrum, they set the stage for final commission action. I hope that their approach will serve as a model for parties participating in current and future spectrum proceedings. As we seek to allocate spectrum and deploy technology for innovative uses in a timely manner, it will be necessary for stakeholders to come to the table in good faith and to be open to compromise. The perfect should not be the enemy of the good. And the merits of that approach, I think, are reflected and made apparent in today's item. And while today's vote marks an important milestone in this proceeding, as one of my colleagues pointed out, our work is not yet done. In order to pave the way for the development and deployment of M-band devices, we must respond quickly to the comments we receive in response to the further notice of proposed rulemaking. We must issue rules related to the selection of an M-band coordinator, and we must finally select that coordinator. In my view, these steps should be completed within a year. It is therefore encouraging that the item sets a target of final action by June of 2013. Additionally, once M-band devices begin to be deployed, we should assess their performance and see if there are opportunities to expand their use. Now, while today's item appropriately takes a cautious view with respect to many issues, I'm open to taking a more forward-leaning approach in the future if the evidence warrants. Finally, I commend the chairman for his leadership on this issue and the staff in the Office of Engineering and Technology for their fine work on this item. I look forward to casting many more votes in future meetings to facilitate the innovative use of spectrum and technology to improve the lives of Americans. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So this is the second of two items today in which we take steps to harness communications technology to help save lives. In his new book, The Creative Destruction of Medicine, Dr. Eric Topol writes, and I quote, "The emergence of powerful tools to digitize human beings with full support of our internet infrastructure creates an unparalleled opportunity to forever change how healthcare is delivered." And at the FCC, we've embraced the opportunities of communications technology to improve healthcare results and lower healthcare costs. A national broadband plan identified healthcare as an area of enormous promise for broadband-enabled innovation. The plan included many recommendations which we've been implementing. We entered into an unprecedented partnership with the Food and Drug Administration to help ensure that communications-related medical innovations can swiftly and safely be brought to market. Our major Universal Service Fund reform included measures to encourage the rollout of broadband in rural areas to anchor institutions like hospitals and health clinics. As Commissioner Rosenworcel mentioned, we also have teed up a reform of the rural health care program. We've proposed easing testing restrictions on universities and research organizations. I expect action on that in the near future. Late last year, as others have mentioned, the Commission adopted an order to dedicate spectrum for medical micropower networks. This was the proceeding, again, that is helping bring to market a technology that will help paralyzed people walk and move. Today, we take another step forward on this agenda of actions to harness communications technology to promote better health at lower costs. Everyone has now spoken about medical body area networks or M-band devices. These are extraordinary things that will untether patients from tubes and wires through spectrum-based electronic monitoring, help improve the quality of healthcare, help ensure better outcomes for patients. How much does monitoring matter? Commissioner Clyburn mentioned this data, but it's worth repeating because it's powerfully impressive. Unmonitored hospital patients have a 6% chance of surviving a cardiac arrest. 6%. For monitored hospital patients, the odds improve to 48%. That's dramatic. Philips estimates that by decreasing hospital-acquired infections, M-band monitoring can save an average of up to $12,000 per patient. That's material. So today's item will help maximize the potential of this technology by providing access to spectrum where this technology can develop and flourish. With this country, the U.S. does become the first country in the world to dedicate spectrum for this purpose. It's another step to promote our global competitiveness by making sure that next generation innovations are developed here in the U.S., launched here in the U.S. We'd be very happy to export these to the rest of the world. Now, in this case, as others have mentioned, this was not spectrum that was lying fallow. It was spectrum that was being used by other purposes, including commercial test pilots. Getting to this point required resolving difficult interference issues. It required a tremendous amount of work, as others have noted, by Julie Knapp and OET, all of the people from the various industries involved. It is, as others have said, a great example of how parties working together to resolve interference issues can do so when they work in a spirit of good faith, sharing, and compromise. I agree with Commissioner Rosenworcel that this is a model that has widespread application. It's also built on many years of this kind of work by Julie Knapp and your staff at OET. So thank you, everyone who participated in this from the Commission, from the industries that I mentioned, also from NTIA and DOD. There was an excellent interagency process and collaboration on this. I'd like to recognize GE Healthcare, Philips, and the Aerospace and Flight Test Radio Coordinating Council, which all worked diligently to get us to this point. As Commissioner Clyburn mentioned, there are other innovators who are interested in further developing this technology. That's a good thing. This creative use of spectrum provides wireless health manufacturers with the certainty they need to now move forward. I expect it will relatively quickly lead to the commercialization of products that provide this monitoring not only in hospitals but also in homes. And it's easy to imagine the benefits of that. This item also complements advances in machine-to-machine technology that allows anywhere, anytime medical monitoring over 3G, 4G, and Wi-Fi networks. And on other occasions, we've been able to talk about some of the benefits of that kind of monitoring and transmission of information. So we're all very excited about this. I'm very grateful that we're at this point. I want to thank each of my colleagues for working on this. We got terrific input even into the last day that improved the item, and I thank my colleagues for that. I think there's uniform enthusiasm for this line of our work at the Commission, harnessing communications technology for health and medicine-related benefits. Commissioner McDowell does have the longest history of enthusiasm on this, having been consistent in supporting these kinds of actions from the time he got to the Commission, and I appreciate that. Thank you to the staff. I may have exhausted all of my thank yous to Julie Knapp, but sometimes you can't thank Julie Knapp enough, and your terrific staff who does so much great work. I want to acknowledge the folks in my office who worked on both this and the prior item, Charles Mathias, Josh Gottheimer, and we look forward to rapid development of this technology. I'm glad that we have a target in the item to keep the focus and keep the progress moving forward. With that, let's proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the request for editorial privileges is granted. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Secretary, please.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the final item on your agenda today will be presented by the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau. It is entitled, Improving Spectrum Efficiency Through Flexible Channel Spacing and Bandwidth Utilization for Economic Area-Based 800 MHz Specialized Mobile Radio Licensees.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Kaplan, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good morning, Commissioners. While we always look forward to presenting items before the full Commission, we are especially excited today because it's the first meeting for Commissioners Rosenworcel and Pai. On behalf of the Wireless Bureau, I would like to express how eager we are to work with you and your staffs to tackle the many important issues facing the Bureau. So welcome back. You know, it's interesting, when I first suggested to some of my colleagues in the Bureau that we seek to have this item added to the meeting agenda, I got some strange looks. They reminded me that the item was fairly short, it was straightforward, and in no way was it controversial. And while it may be all of those things, there are at least two reasons why I believe it's important to highlight what this order represents today. First, this item demonstrates our unfailing commitment to doing everything we can to eliminate rules that no longer make sense and that stand in the way of innovation and investment in consumer welfare. This vigilance is essential. The landscape in the wireless space is changing and evolving so rapidly that we need to remain focused on keeping our rules and regulations current to foster rather than hinder the development of advanced wireless services. Second, not only are we addressing a key problem, but we're doing so swiftly. Once the issue was brought to our attention, we worked collaboratively, both within the Commission, with the Office of General Counsel, and with industry to identify the best procedural way to address the issue. And then, in a miraculous only 76 days, our hardworking staff has been able to take this from an NPRM to the draft order we have in front of you today. So I submit to you that where there is a will, we very much are demonstrating there is a way to move expeditiously when required. Joining me at the table today are John Leibovitz, our Deputy Chief of the Wireless Bureau, Roger Noel, Chief of the Mobility Division's of the Bureau's Mobility Division, Linda Chang, the Associate Chief of the Division, and Brian Regan, an attorney advisor in the division. And Brian has been one of the driving forces behind this item. We'll present.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'm pleased to present this report and order. The report and order amends Part 90 of the Commission's rules to eliminate a legacy channel spacing and bandwidth limitation affecting economic area-based 800 MHz specialized mobile radio licensees, generally referred to as enhanced SMR or ESMR licensees. Current rules require EA-based 800 MHz SMR licensees to operate on 25 kHz channels at a bandwidth of 20 kHz. This limitation applies despite the fact that an EA-based license covers several megahertz of contiguous channels. Under current rules, EA-based 800 MHz SMR licensees are therefore unable to deploy wireless broadband technologies. The report and order eliminates this unnecessary barrier to deployment and investment by permitting EA-based 800 MHz licensees to exceed the existing channel spacing and bandwidth limitation in the ESMR band. The report and order recognizes the importance of the ongoing 800 MHz reconfiguration process, whereby 800 MHz operations are being relocated to protect public safety against interference and incorporates protections to 800 MHz public safety licensees. Specifically, the report and order permits affected licensees to exceed the existing channel spacing and bandwidth limitation in the entire ESMR portion of the 800 MHz band, only in National Public Safety Planning Advisory Committee regions where 800 MHz reconfiguration is complete. In regions where reconfiguration is incomplete, the report and order permits affected licensees to exceed the existing channel spacing and bandwidth limitation only in the portion of the ESMR band not currently occupied by public safety licensees. Licensees that intend to exceed the channel spacing and bandwidth limitation must provide at least 30 days advance notice to all 800 MHz public safety licensees with base stations with or within 113 kilometers of the border of the affected National Public Safety Planning Advisory Committee region. This notice must include the estimated date on which the EA-based 800 MHz SMR licensee will begin operations that exceed the channel spacing and bandwidth limitation. The report and order will enable EA-based 800 MHz SMR licensees to transition their networks from 2G wireless technologies to 3G and other advanced wireless technologies, such as LTE, which require greater bandwidth of contiguous channels. Affected licensees will be better able to serve their customers and compete in the wireless marketplace without increasing harmful interference to public safety licensees. The Wireless Telecommunications Bureau recommends that the Commission adopt the report and order and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're batting 1,000 here today, so this is good. I'm pleased to vote to approve this order, which of course modernizes a legacy rule, thereby paving the way for increased spectral efficiency, which you've already discussed, a priority of mine, as well as technical flexibility to invest in, develop, and deploy wideband services in portions of the 800 MHz band. Our new rule strikes a balance between maximizing efficiency and therefore allowing consumers to benefit from faster mobile speeds and a greater array of services on the one hand, while protecting 800 megahertz public safety licensees from harmful interference on the other hand. While we are just beginning to sort through the complex issues associated with freeing up more spectrum for the longer term, I'm pleased that we have taken another small step today to allow wireless providers to take better advantage of the spectrum already available in the market. So I look forward to the ongoing efforts here and analyzing as we go forward. And thank you for your hard work thus far and going forward as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn.
With today's order, the Commission takes another important step towards facilitating the use of more spectrum for mobile broadband service. By removing the channel spacing and bandwidth limitations in our Part 90 rules, we are enabling mobile service providers with certain 800 megahertz licenses to transition from narrowband operations to networks that can support the most advanced mobile broadband services. Since some of these providers have SMR licenses that cover the entire country, these technical rule changes should result in improved service and more innovative offerings for many consumers. This will enhance the ability of these companies to respond to ever-increasing consumer demand for innovative services. It will also promote deployment of advanced wireless services to rural, unserved, and underserved areas. In order to arrive at today's rule changes, the Commission had to carefully consider any impact on public safety communications. This is because a number of public safety licensees are still in the process of transitioning their networks to the frequencies that the Commission adopted in 2004 in order to address interference that commercial mobile providers were causing public safety operations. Today's order properly adopts measures such as a 30-day notice procedure and other technical requirements to ensure that these rule changes will not harm public safety communications. Mr. Chairman, I wish to affirm to Mr. Kaplan that those strange looks he got from staff were not due to this item, and I commend the Wireless Bureau for working so diligently to prepare this order just 2 months after we adopted the notice of proposed rulemaking that initiated this proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosenworcel.
For all of the technical complexity of this order, it is actually about something very simple. This is about clearing out old spectrum policies and unlocking the possibilities that come with more efficient spectrum use. More precisely, by eliminating unnecessary technical restrictions and adding flexibility to the rules for 800 megahertz enhanced specialized mobile radio operations, we are enabling commercial licensees in the band to deploy more advanced 3G and 4G services. This means more innovation. It means more investment. Moreover, it does all of this while recognizing the importance of protecting public safety operations during the ongoing 800 megahertz public safety reconfiguration. I support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Pai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's report and order illustrates the need for the Commission to review its rules regularly and assess whether they continue to be necessary in light of changing technological and or market conditions. In this item, as has been observed ably by the Bureau, we remove certain channel spacing and bandwidth limitations in the 800 megahertz band that may have been made sense almost 20 years ago when the rule was adopted, but currently stand in the way of mobile broadband deployment. I'm pleased that we are taking this step in a thoughtful manner that will both benefit American consumers, including those in rural and underserved areas, while protecting public safety operations. I commend Sprint for raising this issue with the Commission and would encourage others in the private sector to call our attention to similarly outdated regulatory barriers to investment and broadband deployment. I pledge to examine such proposals promptly and work with my colleagues with dispatch so that we can remove additional obstacles to broadband deployment at future Commission meetings. My thanks as well to Rick Kaplan and the talented staff of the Wireless Bureau for their swift and skillful work, some might say ruthless efficiency, in crafting this item, thus allowing us to act on Sprint's proposal in a very timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is indeed another action item in our work to ensure that mobile broadband is an ongoing, strong driver of economic growth and opportunity in the United States. As we all know, mobile broadband is changing the world for the better, and the U.S. is leading the way. We have now regained global leadership in mobile. American-designed mobile apps and services are being adopted faster than any other. both inside and outside our borders. After years of seeing countries developing popular mobile applications ahead of us, the U.S. mobile innovation economy is now the envy of the world. And we are ahead of the world in deploying 4G mobile broadband at scale, with 64% of the world's 4G LTE subscribers here in the U.S. Now, to maintain and extend U.S. leadership, we have challenges to address, and a major priority of the Commission remains addressing these challenges and unleashing mobile innovation to make sure that we continue to lead the world in mobile. To that end, we're pursuing our strong mobile action plan, which focuses on 5 core elements: freeing up new spectrum for licensed and unlicensed use, removing barriers to mobile infrastructure build-out and mobile broadband spectrum use, driving greater efficiency in spectrum, networks, and devices, promoting competition, and empowering consumers. Already, we're unleashing at least 25 megahertz of spectrum in the WCS band by removing unnecessary technical rules that had impeded use. We're in the process of removing regulatory barriers to enable 40 megahertz of satellite spectrum to be used for land-based mobile broadband. We became the first country in the world to open up the white spaces for new and innovative unlicensed use. We've also, thanks to Congress, become the first country in the world to authorize voluntary incentive auctions designed to unleash significant amounts of prime spectrum for mobile broadband. Today's order is part of that plan, serving multiple goals. As Rick and my colleagues have pointed out, we're removing outdated rules that are serving as barriers to efficient spectrum use for mobile broadband in the 800 megahertz band. And so this really is a case of a successful item being driven both by our desire to promote efficiency and growth in mobile and by our parallel process of identifying outdated rules for elimination or modification. As you've heard, the order will allow enhanced specialized mobile radio licenses such as Sprint and Southern Link to operate across contiguous channels without a rigid channel spacing requirement or a bandwidth limitation. This will enable the transition of their networks to CDMA and LTE technology. The end result permits flexibility that will enable the use of additional spectrum for mobile broadband, driving investment, more innovation, more benefits flowing to the American people. And we're accomplishing this goal while ensuring that important public safety uses in the 800 megahertz band are protected from interference. Again, not easy, and I'm grateful to all of those who worked in resolving those issues. So thank you to my colleagues for their input on this and their support of this item, to the Wireless Bureau and OET and the General Counsel's Office and other parts of the agency who worked hard to get this done on a fast track. With that, let's proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The request for editorial privileges is now granted. And thank you very much. Well, let me do this. We're going to move to personnel announcements. And why don't I go first, and then I'll give everyone else a chance. Let me first welcome very happily a new member of the Chairman's Office. Renee Wenzel has joined the Chairman's Office as legal advisor. Many of you already know Renee, who comes to us from the firm of Wiltshire and Grannis. She brings a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge working on wireline, wireless, international consumer issues. At the FCC, she'll focus on advancing our mobile agenda, unleashing the benefits of mobile broadband for the American people, among other issues. She'll also work closely with OET and Julie Knapp on OET issues. Renee is, I'm afraid, the latest Yale graduate that we've added to the Chairman's Office. But we won't hold that against her. Renee has already been with us for a few weeks. It's been a great start, Renee. We're just so thrilled that you've jumped into public service. We're excited that you've done it. We're excited about why you've done it. We've enjoyed working with you so far, and we're looking forward to it. We will miss you as you temporarily take leave from us to get married, and so we may not see you again until you come back, but we congratulate you on that wonderful, wonderful news. Charles Mathias may not be new to the 8th floor, to the chairman's office, but he does have a new title reflecting the great work that Charles continues to do every day. Charles is now special counsel to the chairman. For years, Charles has been one of the Commission's leading experts on spectrum policy, and he'll continue to advise us on spectrum matters. He'll also be working on public safety issues and will lead a team on government reform, on removing outdated rules and restrictions, building on the terrific work that's been done over the last 3 years by Ruth Milkman, and before her by Mary Beth Richards. Items like the ones we did today really flow out of both the substantive work of the bureaus and the great processes that Mary Beth and Ruth have led. And Charles, we challenge you to keep that going. And now let me, one more announcement, which let me phrase this one in the form of an answer. This FCC staffer is a universally beloved 2-time Jeopardy champion who will be dearly missed. Of course, the question is, who is Tom Brown? Everyone who's been at the Commission for the last few years knows Tom Brown because Tom, like some characters on TV, has the ability to be in many places at the same time, accomplishing more in 24 hours than is humanly possible. Tom came to the Commission as part of the National Broadband Plan team and was one of the Energizer, I don't want to say bunnies, but who helped drive that complex process to an unbelievable result in a very short amount of time. And we were very happily able to persuade Tom to stay at the Commission after the National Broadband Plan was complete. He did so. He has been working as a special assistant in the chairman's office since then. Just a superstar. And what makes Tom even more amazing is his ability to wrestle with any challenge thrown his way and defeat them. Tom is doing that in various parts of his life, and it only adds to our admiration for Tom, for your work, and for you personally. I will miss you a lot, Tom, personally. We were able to travel to China together. Tom earned his way onto the trip because he speaks Chinese, among many other things. And having a second translator in the room is always a benefit. Tom will be leaving us to go to Yale Law School. He made that decision before adequately consulting with me, and I forgive him. So, Tom, thank you for all that you've done. We really can't thank you enough. Your legacy in terms of your achievements at the Commission will live on in so many different places. We're very, very grateful. We wish you well, and we hope someday you'll come back. With that, let me ask my colleagues if they have any announcements. Commissioner McDowell? No? Commissioner Clyburn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for Tom, it's good to see you. And all the best to you. And I never would have said anything negative about Yale Law, so I just want that to get on the record. I would like to, speaking of law, I would like to introduce 3 of new members of our team, our summer class of law interns. If you would stand up when I call your name. Seth Atkinson. He's a Missouri native and has just completed his studies at Brigham Young Law School. While there, he was president of 2 student groups and has worked at 3 different federal government agencies. He is the proud father of 2 lovely daughters, and he says to our office that he honestly enjoys his wife's cooking. So I just wanted that to be reflected in the record, and welcome. Suman Tadapure. she will forgive me, is a third-year student at the University of Michigan Law School. She attended the University of California at Berkeley for her undergraduate studies and plans to pursue a legal career in intellectual property and media law. In her free time, I don't know where she finds, and she will have a rough time this summer doing this, but she is a member of Ishara dance. She's so polite. Even if I said it incorrectly, she would dance, which is a Bollywood dance company. So again, welcome. And Kia Johnson, who is a native of Eudora, Arkansas, which I'd never heard of before today, is a third-year law student at the University of Arkansas School of Law in Little Rock, which I have heard of. She enjoys reading, and I quote, anything that does not pertain to law and watching SEC football. So you are in good company here, especially with my colleague, two persons down, and welcome you all. We're going to have a great but busy summer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to announce the team I have who are helping me get my office up and running. So joining me on an interim basis are Paul Murray, who is assisting with wireless issues, Joe Cavender, who is assisting with wireline issues, and Holly Sauer, who is helping out with media issues. I'm also blessed to have Carolyn Conyers and Terry Swinton helping me out on an interim basis. They are all dynamos. They are deeply knowledgeable about communications and the ways the Commission works. I am really, truly grateful for their willingness to step in and help out. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pai?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Before making staff announcements, I would like to say and reiterate publicly what I've said to each of them privately, and that is to thank the Chairman, Commissioner McDowell, and Commissioner Clyburn for the warm welcome you've extended to me over the past several weeks. It's made my transition back to the Commission a very smooth and easy one, and for that I'm very grateful. I certainly look forward to working with you and my fellow former nominee, Commissioner Rosenworcel, on the important work that lies ahead. I also want to thank all of the Commission staff who have stopped me in the halls or come to my office to say hello and have welcomed me back to the Commission. One of the most heartening things about my short time back here is seeing so many old friends, and one of the most exciting things about the time to come is having another opportunity to work with them and to meet even more of the Commission staff in dealing with the important things that we do. But following up on the Chairman's suggestion, I would like to take a couple of minutes to introduce the members of my staff who have helped get our office up and running over the course of the last week and a half. Our Chief of Staff is no stranger to most of you, Matthew Berry, if he would stand, has served with distinction previously in the Office of General Counsel as the Commission's General Counsel and Deputy General Counsel. Matthew and I also worked together at the U.S. Department of Justice in the Office of Legal Policy, and he served as well in the Office of Legal Counsel. Prior to joining my office, he was a partner at Patton Boggs, and he, earlier in his career, served as a law clerk to Judge Silberman on the D.C. Circuit and Justice Thomas on the Supreme Court. Now, in case you needed any more proof that Matthew is a lifelong underachiever, he received his undergraduate degree from Dartmouth and his law degree from Yale Law School. And I'm certainly pleased that he succumbed to an offer that he couldn't refuse and has joined our team. Next, Gene Filano is my acting legal advisor. Gene came to our office from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, where he served as Associate Bureau Chief, and I would like to thank him for his wise counsel during our initial days and the Bureau for its generosity. Prior to his service in the Bureau, Gene was Deputy Bureau Chief of the Enforcement Bureau, and he also has worked in the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau and the Wireline Competition Bureau, giving him an impressive array of experience in the majority of the Commission's bureaus. Gene received his law degree from the Columbus School of Law at Catholic and his undergraduate degree from Loyola College, Baltimore. He also earned an MBA from Loyola's Sellinger School of Business, and I'm pleased that nonetheless he is applying his legal skills in public service on our behalf. Last but certainly not least, Lori Alexiou is currently serving as my confidential assistant. I previously worked with Lori in the Office of General Counsel, where she served as a litigation specialist. Before that, she was a confidential assistant to former Commissioner Meredith Baker and former Chairman Kevin Martin. And prior to joining the Commission, Lori worked at the law firms of Wiley Ryan, as well as Fisher, Wayland, Cooper, and Leader. Lori's contributions to the office are impossible to overstate, but suffice it to say that we could not function as well, and I probably could not function at all without her efficiency, institutional knowledge, and collegiality. Together with Angela George Edwards, our receptionist, she has helped us hit the ground running. And in addition to recognizing the members of my staff, I have one final announcement this morning, and that is that given the importance of our work at the Commission, I think it's critical for us to reach out to the American people and keep them informed about what we are doing. In particular, I salute the chairman for the efforts that have been made in recent years to connect Americans with the Commission's work using the Internet. And in keeping of that spirit, I've established an official Twitter account, which I will be using as part of my outreach efforts. We'll post updates about our activities, as well as links to statements, speeches, and testimonies. My Twitter handle, for those of you who enjoy and can't get enough of social media, is @AjitPaiFCC. And I invite all who are interested in the Commission's work to follow me. And even if you don't like what I have to say, you only have to read 140 characters of my saying it. So thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to make these announcements, and I look forward to the future.
Great. Thank you all very much. Madam Secretary, would you mind announcing the date of the next Commission meeting?
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission is Wednesday, June 13th, 2012.
Terrific. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Announce yourself, too. Thanks, Paul.
Paul Kirby of TR Daily. You said one question with 6 subparts? Mr. Chairman, Senator Grassley said this week that in over 30 years of conducting oversight, I can say that when it comes to providing documents to Congress, the FCC is one of the worst federal agencies I've ever seen. Wanted to give you a chance to respond to his comment.
Well, I think we've shown in many different ways our commitment to transparency and openness. Congressman Issa did a report card a few weeks ago looking at a whole number of federal agencies and graded them on compliance and implementation with FOIA, and the FCC got an A. So we'll continue to cooperate to be transparent as we have been.
Thanks.
Hi, Adam Asmanian from National Journal. My question is, Commissioner McDowell spoke on the communicators, the C-SPAN program, and said he would like to see an executive order ordering federal agencies to relinquish spectrum to establish a nationwide broadband plan. Is that an approach you would favor, or would you recommend to the President to issue an executive order?
Well, the President has issued an executive order setting goals and targets on spectrum recovery, and there's a strong commitment across the administration to unleashing new spectrum, including recovering spectrum from federal users for commercial use. The new frontier that across government we're working on now is sharing of spectrum between government users and commercial users. In addition to the traditional approach of complete reallocation, sharing provides some real opportunity and promise. It's a new lane. The old lane continues to be important, but given the time and expense it takes in some cases to relocate systems, being able to get spectrum to market more quickly by working through, by having a sharing frame holds enormous benefit. That's being taken seriously across the government. We now have a application for an experimental license before us to start testing framing. We're working with NTIA and with DOD to be in a position to move that forward as soon as possible, because I think there's a tremendous opportunity in freeing up government spectrum for commercial use by moving forward on the new frontier of sharing.
Lynn Stanton, Telecommunications Reports. There was some pushback from public interest groups about your remarks at the cable show regarding experimentation with pricing models, and some parties suggested that the Commission hasn't gathered any information really on how these data usage policies affect consumers and affect potential competitors. And do you feel that you have enough information, and do you have any plans to gather more information?
So we've been consistent on these topics for 2 years, including the order that we adopted, I guess, about a year and a half ago. New business models, new services can be a good thing for consumers. For example, ensuring that lower using consumers aren't subsidizing larger users. But new business models and new services shouldn't come at the expense of competition, of increases in speed or capacity at affordable rates for broadband internet access. Those are all key to driving a healthy broadband ecosystem that's growing, that's innovating, that's attracting investment both in infrastructure and in apps and services. Now, we, of course, monitor what is happening in the market, and will continue to monitor what's happening in the marketplace.
To follow up on Lynn's question, there were a lot of over-the-top video providers who were quite concerned, I think, about what you said at the cable show about saying the broadband caps were fine for competitive reasons for the future. So do you have any words of reassurance for them, or are those guys just going to be out of luck in the future?
Well, again, what I said at the cable show was consistent with what I and other hearers have been saying for 2 years. Experimentation in business models and services can be good. It can result in driving efficiency. It can result in lower demand users paying less than higher demand users. But changes in services and business models can't come at the expense of continuing to increase capacity, increase speed, competition, and service at affordable rates for consumers. So we'll continue to monitor these issues. But I think the position on these has been consistent for 2 years.
Brooks Bolick, Politico. There's been a lot of activity on the 8th floor on the Spectrum Co. deal. I think I counted 100-plus visits by various people lobbying for and against the deal. Is that more intense than usual? And will you get the deal done in time with the extended shot clock?
Well, I won't comment on specific transactions. In general, what I can say is every transaction is reviewed in a manner that is participatory, that gives every stakeholder, whatever they think, a chance to come in and express their views, consistent with our rules. Our processes are very fact-based, very data-based, and very open to stakeholders, again, whatever their views, to come and express those views in connection with a transaction. So that's the way we proceed in every transaction.
Do you think you'll finish by the time the 21-day? I know I'm not supposed to get a follow-up, but it's a legitimate one.
I can't comment on the specific transaction anyway.
But do you think you'll be through by that time?
But I won't comment on specific transactions and its
Thank
timing.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Todd Shields, Bloomberg News. How would you characterize your relationship with AT&T in the wake of the failed T-Mobile merger and some robust criticism from AT&T Chairman Randall Stephenson of your stewardship?
I think we have a good relationship with stakeholders across the board. Many of the stakeholders disagree with us. We wouldn't expect any single stakeholder to agree with us on everything. I think the relationships are good, but our job isn't to maximize for relationships. It's to maximize for promoting innovation, promoting job growth, promoting consumer benefits. That's what we're focused on every day. All right. Well, everyone have a great day and a great Memorial
Have a nice weekend.
Day weekend. Take care.
Thank you, Chairman Janikowski. We'll start the second part of the press conference. Do we have questions on the public safety item, the aerial architecture? Okay, if the David Firth and the Public Safety Bureau would like to come up. Why don't we start on the right? Do you have questions,
Yeah,
Brooks?
I do.
We'll go down.
So, is the FCC going to launch its own Air Force?
No.
So how's that going to work? I mean, I know it's an NOI and we got a long way to go, but who's going to be responsible, sort of, for paying for it? Who's going to build it? Can you give us any ideas along those lines?
No, those are all the kinds of questions that we're using the NOI to explore. What we're focused on is feasibility, both from a technical point of view. We're certainly also going to look at all of the issues that you raise in the NOI, and we welcome comments on all of those questions. But we're not assuming any conclusions at this point. That's the reason that we're doing an NOI.
Lynn Stanton, Telecommunications Reports, and these may also be questions you're just going to tell me are being raised in the NOI. But It does seem kind of amorphous at this point, and maybe that's because of the stage we're at, but have you focused on whether this is going to apply to particular frequencies or to particular kinds of services? And in assuming that you do get to the point of authorizing it, would you be authorizing it through rule changes that would apply to specific services, or would individual licensees have to be seeking modifications or waivers? I mean, how is this going to work?
You anticipated my answer with the opening of your question. I think these are all, first of all, in terms of frequencies, we're asking really about a broad range of frequencies because the idea here is that you would be using an aerial technology to temporarily replace existing technology on the ground that has been disabled, has been destroyed in a major disaster. So I think what we're looking for, without necessarily singling out any frequency or any service, is what's the potential to bring in essentially cell towers on airborne platforms. It may or may not be cellular service, but just call it for that by analogy. An aerial platform that can basically replace temporarily the service that's been disrupted.
If nobody else has anything on this one, or you do?
So you won't have your own Air Force, but can we call you Captain Firth anyway?
Until the end of the week, you can, Paul.
I will then.
I did. There have been some people who basically say this is, forgive the pun. No, don't. That this is pie in the sky. That's a double pun, and that it'll never get off the ground. Frankly, I mean, is there any
skeptics are welcome to comment on the NOI?
You had there had been a mention to there was mention of this possibly applying for civilians, for people that, not just for public safety but also for regular consumers, and then there's this concern about interference. So it sounds like you're sort of contemplating it replacing ordinary kinds of commercial services, not just public safety communications. And if there's concern about interference, if there's still something to interfere with, why would you be launching these platforms to be delivering the service? Either there's something there to interfere with and you don't need the aerial platform, or there's something there to interfere with, so why are we worried about interference? If that makes any sense.
And that might in fact be the very sort of question that you would have to consider in determining whether or not to deploy the aerial platform in the first place. What are the actual situational needs on the ground, and are they appropriate for this type of deployment or not? And that might depend on the condition of the terrestrial infrastructure that you're dealing with.
So it would actually be at the time that somebody might launch, you're contemplating that it wouldn't be up to whoever it is that's going to be running these aerial platforms. It wouldn't be up to them to decide in any given instance. There'd have to be a commission sort of declaration of emergency or something, or you don't know yet.
Exactly the kind of question the NOI is designed to look at is what are the basically what are the conditions that would need to be in effect, and who would then be the decision makers? What would the coordination process be? How do we make sure that we are not causing interference to something that is still stood up? All of those are questions that are raised in the notice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if the Office of Engineering and Technology, Julius Knapp wants to come up, Medical Body Area Networks. Paul, do you want to start on this end? Do you have a question?
Julie, is it correct that a couple of the commissioners mentioned that stuff still to do? In the agenda for the meeting, it said that the further notice would just basically pick a coordinator, but a couple of the commissioners referred to having to still deal with registration, coordination issues, and procedures. My understanding is it correct that the order adopted today, that a lot of the joint proposal from the parties, the order adopted today doesn't address those, that's to be addressed later on by the coordinator?
No. The order adopts all of the necessary rules, but there's a couple of steps that we still have to go through, and it's really a very small part of this item. One is, for example, we are proposing to select one coordinator. So we need to go through the formality of establishing the rule to do that. And then there are other items such as what are the selection criteria. So it's a relatively smaller piece. All of the elements that were discussed as to the obligations and so forth are included in the rules.
So issues such as that were proposed in the joint proposal, such as automatic shutoff when you leave a healthcare facility, or the means for enforcement, those issues are in this order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There, in some of the recent filings on that, on the M-bands issue, there's some concern that this will take a long time, and I think one of the filers said that, suggested that this be done in less than a year. Do you have any idea of a timetable? Can you do it in less than a year? I mean, how much?
Yeah, I think you heard Commissioner Pai mentioned that the item sets 1 year as a target, but our hope is that we can move faster than that. Much will depend on the feedback we get in response to the notice of proposed rulemaking.
And until the coordinator's picked, nothing can happen, right? I mean, you got to have that's got to be in place. The coordination process has to be in place for this to work.
Actually, a lot can happen because now that we have rules in place, people can start to plan for networks and design products and go through the authorization process. There's also the step of going through FDA's approval process. Until the spectrum was nailed down, you really couldn't go forward on that front.
So both the FCC equipment authorization and the FDA approval process.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And the staff of our wireless bureau, I think we talked to you, had to leave. So if you have further questions on that item, you can call the news media contact, Cecilia, after.
Talk in the press corps here about these changes in policy regarding frequent visitors badges and getting escorts. I don't know if the SEC is running an escort service for that purpose or not.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't really have a lot of background on that, but so on the security policy for visitors badges and things like that. Okay, let me get back to you on that.
And the fact that once you get in the building, you can't get a cup of coffee without an escort, or going outside the building and the reclearing security. I mean, it just seems a little over the top, frankly.
To try to make it not completely whiny.
Was there some incident
that was there some incident that caused them to rethink security policy?
And did it involve Politico?
And does it apply to attorneys and others who come often for meetings with staff and commissioners?
And if you crack down on us, can you crack down a little more on Com Daily? Just asking.
Okay, I'll follow up with you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. That concludes the press conference. Thank you.